When you buy a card from me on eBay, the card you see in the photos is the exact card I am going to ship to you. I buy Pokemon cards all the time, right? I do not like buying cards when I cannot see the specific copy that I am buying. Now, some sellers on eBay and a lot of sellers on TCG Player are using stock photos, and that works for them. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of it. I care about the condition, the centering on the back even, right? So today, I'm taking one card through my entire and complete workflow, from an unsorted stack through the Epson ES-400 scanner, through card uploader, and into an actual live eBay listing, and then lastly, putting it into storage. I will show you what these tools do well, where they fall short, and what still depends on me. If you're new here, my name is Jacoby. I'm building a real eBay Pokemon card store through eBay, and I am documenting all my systems and mistakes and results as I go. This all really started during the summer. I am not coming to you as someone who has already perfectly figured out how to do everything. I'm still building all of this in public. I'm improving where I can and showing you what the work actually looks like behind the listing. So if you're trying to turn your collection into a side hustle or a growing inventory into a real business, subscribe and follow along. The goal here is practical information from a store that is actually operating, not just theory. Before we get into the equipment, I want to explain why this workflow is built around real photos in the first place. A stock image can tell me which card is listed and how it represents, right? It cannot show me the condition of the specific copy in a seller's inventory. If there's a scratch, if there's whitening, if it's off center, right? General descriptions of lightly print for one person can mean something completely different to me, the consumer. I understand why sellers use stock photos. It is fast, consistent, and can be a normal way of doing business. I'm not saying anyone's wrong for doing that. It's just not my personal preference. It's simply not how I want to run my eBay store. For my raw singles, I want the listing to show the actual front and back. The photo is part of the product and part of the trust that I am asking the buyers to place in my store. That decision shapes everything that happens next. Okay, the first step actually happens before the scanner. I have to decide whether the card deserves an individual listing at all. Just because I can scan something quickly does not mean it automatically deserves a spot in the store. Every active listing creates work, right? So it's verification, it's pricing, it's storage, fulfillment, possible repricing if it sits. So I look at the condition, the character, the set. Rather, I believe it has a real reason for someone to look for and search that specific card. Some cards go into listing on their own, some make more sense as a bundle, and some are just bulk and are going to get sent out. I cover that decision in more detail in my list or bulk video. The important part here is that the scanner should receive a deliberate batch. Not every card I happen to own gets its own, right? So for this video, this is the card we are going to follow all the way through. Once I have the listing batch, I get the cards facing the same direction. I make sure I can observe their order through the process. I run the cards through the Epson scanner raw about 99% of the time. I've not had any issues with scratching, and in my experience with this machine, you know, it's not a promise. This is just what I have dealt with. There is a dual white tab in the front that ended up removing just to kind of help the cards flow through a little bit better. The other important part is going to be cleaning. I do not clean the scanner. I do clean the scanner between uses. Dust and residue can really start to accumulate on there. And keep in mind that these are not temporary preview images. These scans become the real photos on eBay. So a line on the scan becomes a problem in the listing. Before I start, I clean the scanning path. I check first finished images before I trust the rest of the batch. So that means like I'm running just a couple of inexpensive cards through, preferably something that's like a reverse holo like this, where if you do start seeing scan lines, they pop a lot easier compared to the non-holo version. So that's just a good baseline just to take a look before you keep going forward. This is the Epson ES-400 scanner. This video is not sponsored. I bought the scanner with my own money and I paid for the software I use along with it. When I was researching card scanners, the model I saw recommended the most was the Ricoh FI8170, which a lot of people still refer to as the Fujitsu scanner. The problem for me was the price. I was looking at, upgrading my store, but for being relatively new and spending $700+ for the scanner seemed like too big of an investment for me to scale at this time. The Epson was the second most recommended one, and Honestly, I paid a little less than $300 for it, which made much more sense for me and my business at the time. And I wasn't necessarily looking for the most expensive thing possible. I was looking for a tool that would solve the problem that I actually had. And honestly, I've been extremely happy with it. The biggest benefits is capturing the front and back of the cards simultaneously. I can keep a batch in order and create consistent images without having to use my phone, which is what I was using beforehand, right? That does not mean it does the whole job. It does not tell me whether the card should be listed. It does not judge the condition for me. It does not protect me from a dirty scan, right? These are all things I still have to go in and do manually, not to mention pricing and organizing and stuff afterwards. What it does is remove one of the most repetitive parts of the workflow while still giving me and the buyers real photos to use on the exact card. I'm comfortable using the machine because I maintain it, I inspect the cards, I check the output. If you're not comfortable putting a particular card through it, don't do it. Like, it's simple, but yeah, don't do it. A little efficiency is not worth the risk. For my inventory, the Epson scanner has been a very good middle ground between phone photography and the most expensive scanner on the market. Once the Epson scanner creates the image, the next step is shifting over to Card Uploader. I can add the scan images as a batch, and Card Uploader uses its AI image search tool to determine which cards it is actually looking at. The identification is useful and mostly accurate. The phrase is important, useful and mostly accurate. I am not saying it is perfect, because it's not. And I do not say that I publish whatever AI tells me that it is. What it gives me is a very strong starting point. Instead of creating a listing from a blank screen, I have the card images and an initial identification, right? So just the first step of a multi-step process, and the information that I need to begin reviewing the listing. It lets me compare active and sold prices for TCG Player and eBay, which is really useful, but is not just default create a pricing choice for me. It allows me the ability to sort through it without having to bounce around to different websites. Another benefit is that my existing eBay store rules can automatically be applied to these listings. I don't have to, rebuild the same shipping and store policies every time I install a new batch. It's saved and uploaded correctly. And when the batch is ready, Card Uploader creates a CSV that I can use to upload a large group of listings to eBay all at once. That is the part that changes this from a photo tool into an actual workflow listing. The price is also very easy for me to justify. I'm currently paying about $10 a month for it. Again, not a sponsored video. And I have not questioned once whether the price is actually worth it. The repetitive work it removes is worth it on its own, right? So the positives are pretty straightforward. Easy batch uploads, useful AI identification, pricing references, preset eBay rules, and a CSV that lets me move the work into the store efficiently. But this is where the human part of the workflow becomes important. The AI scan is not as accurate as I'd like for it to be. It's accurate enough to save time, but not accurate enough for me to trust without looking at the physical card and checking the match. It's an important distinction. AI can prepare the decision, but it cannot take responsibility for the listing. I still need to verify that it is the correct card, correct set, correct version before I put it in front of a buyer. The biggest weaknesses for my store is duplicate inventory. Card Uploader will show me what I've listed a card for previously. So I'll have if I'm going through it and it says, $3.99, it'll show me that I've listed it previously for $3.99, but does not give me a great answer to the question of what I actually have. How many of this particular card do I already have in my active inventory? So asterisk with this, there is a beta feature that's being worked on in Card Uploader to manage duplicate eBay listings. As of now, it only works to identify that there are duplicates, not the ability to merge new scans with duplicates, but apparently that is in the works right now. And side note, I'm actually running an experiment of my own. I'm testing it with a low value card to see if I can build a AI agent myself that can detect and merge duplicate listings. Subscribe to see how it goes. I'll be posting a video on that hopefully in the next week or two. All right. I would love to see a clear inventory warning that tells me I already have 1 or 4 or 10 copies of this, right, before I create yet another listing. Right now, that part still requires me to check the store and make the decision for myself. And again, going back to, I like having actual photos of the actual card that I am buying, and I want to enable my customers to have the same experience. Like earlier today, there was a Grow Key card that was a Cosmos Hollow, one of the promos. The card that I had sent, because I had 3 of them lined up 1, 2, 3, I grabbed one of them, not realizing the one that had been sold did have a swirl and was clearly seen in the order, right, in the actual photos. Customer received the card, it's just like, hey, everything's great. The one in the photos had a swirl, this one doesn't have a swirl, what can you do? So again, thankfully it's a $3 card, so pretty quick and easy for me just to buy a 78-cent and send it out to them, and I'll let them keep the other card. Again, it's potential issues that can come from that, so I'm trying to find a way that I can have my cake and eat it too, and that's the real question, right? All right, so going back to Card Uploader, the interface has been adjusted over time. I understand that software changes, and some of those changes can ultimately improve the overall end product, which is fantastic. But there have been times where a tab or a tool that I'm used to seeing has been moved to a different location, and I find myself having to check the frequently asked questions or even the Discord page to find the support that I need on it. Again, just growing pains, relatively new tool, but here we are. But none of those problems make me regret using it. It's just simply define what the tool is, right? So it's not perfect, but it's really, really good. For me, Card Uploader is excellent and very affordable, and it's a true listing assistant with it. It doesn't, just create everything that I do. It still gives me the ability to streamline the boring stuff so I can focus on what's important. The software prepares the work, and I still make the decision. Before I create the CSV, I go back through the batch and I verify the listings. This is where I compare the physical card with the scanned images and the information provided to Card Uploader. I look at the exact match for the condition, for the price, right? I also want to make sure the front and back photos belong to the same card. Again, I've never had any issues, but an extra couple of seconds to make sure that it's working is not sacrificing that much efficiency. So yeah, it's not a step I want to rush in order to get it uploaded. I want to make sure it's done the right way. Once I'm satisfied the store rules do their job, Card Uploader creates the CSV and I upload that as a batch into eBay. Then I review the results again inside eBay. I want to make sure that those titles, photos, categories, prices, shipping settings, quantities all arrive the way I expect it before I consider the digital side complete. And even then, the listing is not actually finished. There's a couple of other steps I have to do on the eBay side, like adding in promotional things like that. As of right now, there's not an ability to add, a 2% or 3% promotional listing through the CSV. You have to do that manually, but with the storefront, you can do a whole bunch all at once. It's pretty straightforward. The last part of the workflow is connecting the digital listing to the physical card. If the card sells and I cannot find it, it does not matter how good the scan was or how quickly I created the listing, I've just created a different problem. I'm still using the chaos sort style SKU that tells me where the card belongs. So it's the box, the row, the batch, and then the date in my case, right? And that is the specific card's specific position. It does not need to look elegant to the buyer. It just needs to allow me to quickly find the exact physical card when the order comes in. So after the upload, I keep the batch in the same order, assign the location, and place the cards into storage. This is another reason preserving the order from the scanner through Card Uploader matters. So if I've got, 50 cards, right? And I cannot keep them in the order that I scanned them in, then I'm still having to sort through all 50 or 200 of the cards I have in a particular batch versus just like, oh, cool, this is B2-row C-8-5-26, right? So that means this would be the 26 cards scanned in on August the 5th, and I have it physically located in the third row, row C of my second box, right? It's not the actual SKU because I haven't physically completed it yet, but there you go, right? All right, here is our card. This is a real card with real front and back photos at this time. This is the listing and this is the location where I can retrieve it after somebody buys it. That is when I consider the listing complete. That is the complete workflow from a card in a stack to a listing I can actually fulfill. The Epson scanner captures the exact card, Card Uploader prepares the listing workflow, eBay applies the store rules and publishes the inventory, but I'm still responsible for all the other decisions. Whether the card should be listed, whether the match is correct, what condition it is in, how it should be priced, whether I already have duplicates, and where the physical card is stored. That is why I'm happy with this setup. It works for me. It removes repetitive work without giving up the decisions that protect the buyer and me, the seller. If you list a few cards occasionally, phone photos still can make a ton of sense. You do not need to buy equipment and add a subscription just because someone on YouTube tells you to do it. But if you're processing large quantities of batches, want photos with specific cards, and need a repeatable path to upload quickly into eBay, this has been a very good setup. Based on what I know, I would make the same decision again. If I could go back to 45 days ago, I would tell me to get a scanner even sooner, right? The biggest advice is not to confuse automation with accuracy. The scanner captures, the software prepares, the seller decides. Let me know in the comments what the biggest bottleneck in your own workflow is. Is it still taking photos? Is it identifying cards, pricing them, uploading them, or even finding them after you sell it? If you want practical Pokemon resale content from a store that is actually being built, subscribe. Once the card sells, the next step is shipping. So I am putting my complete Pokemon card shipping video on the end screen now. Remember guys, it is journey before destination, and I will see you in the next one.